You've been announced as a test driver again, and still continuing your role as a development driver with Racing Point. Tell us how that came about.
Yeah, I mean, I've been working for the old Force India and now new Racing Point. I was in single seaters, so in 2014 I started actually doing some of the work on the simulator and some of the development work simulator-wise, and then for the car as well. And that's sort of I've kept my job there ever since. So yeah, I've been there a while now. Obviously, I tested the car back in 2015 before this year, and then currently still doing all the work for them now. And got to jump back in the car this year in Barcelona in May, and that was a pretty mega experience as well.
Well, yeah, it is. I mean, we're just watching pictures of you in another Formula One car from a few years ago in the old Nigel Mansell Williams that you had a little blast around Silverstone a couple of years ago. That was, It is good to see you back out doing some professional racing, and it's not just the F1 stuff that you've been involved in as well, because as we mentioned, you're heavily involved in your GT racing now, and you are the BMW Motorsport factory driver as well, and you do so much, to be fair, Nick, at the moment. You do. So tell us how that came about. Wasn't it? Didn't you get invited to a DTM test in the winter? Is that how they decided?
Yeah, I mean, I actually first contacted them back in 2012, if I'm honest, when I was doing World Series. I know hassling them for a DTM drive back then, but there was simply no space and not the opportunity available. And then I switched over to GTs in 2016, 17, doing the Porsche Carrera Cup in Germany, which went pretty well. I finished second in 2017, and then I moved to Super Cup in 2018. And finished second again in that championship in my first year, and won Monaco and Hockenheim, which are nice races to win, especially when you're racing for a German manufacturer. And during that year, I actually got a call back from BMW to do a test and a couple of races for Team Rover in Blankfan, which went well. And that led on to doing the DTM Young Drivers Test at the end, although I'm not that young anymore. I did the test at the end of last year in the car. Went very well, and the relationship sort of went on from there, and they signed me to be a factory driver for this year, racing out in China as a full program, and then doing the Nordschleife stuff as well, as a couple more other events that will get announced during the rest of the season.
Mm. As you say, the VLN series, as most people know it as, and you had. Did you most recently win the last race, or you've had a win over there this season? Yeah, that's
right. Yeah, we won the 6-hour qualification race, so the quali race for the 24-hour race that's coming up in 2 or 3 weeks. Sorry, so that was a nice. Yeah, that was my first race actually with Monday Motorsport, and my second actually in a GT3 car around that circuit. So it was a pretty nice way to sort of start my GT3 career around such an awesome track. And obviously we're in relatively good shape come the 24 hours in a few weeks, and hopefully we can try and run at the front and see where we end up after the 24 hours.
Now, I'm sure perhaps to your current employers, BMW Motorsport, as their factory driver, it might be causing them maybe a couple of frustrations in the PR department, that most of the headlines about you at the moment, Nick, seem to be getting written because you were most recently out in a Formula One car. But it is definitely GTs and the BMW program that you're focused on. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the Force India, or Racing Point, I should say, thing.
We still call it that as well, don't we?
Yeah, everyone seems to, even Kimi Raikkonen in Monaco, I heard his radio. So, I've been doing that for a long time, and that was part of the deal, that I was able to concentrate and still do that alongside my GT commitments. But no, I'm fully focused on the factory role at BMW, and that's where I see my career being and remaining for a long time. So I love the GT racing as well. Don't get me wrong, driving a Formula One car in Barcelona was a real great experience, and they're so fast. nowadays. So to actually jump back in after not have driven something that fast for a long time was a bit of a shock to the system. But actually, lap time wise, we were very, very competitive after the first morning, and then I had to jump back in the GT car at the end of the week for the Nürburgring. So sort of learned how to switch in between the two quite quickly, and both parties are happy with me doing both, so that makes my life a lot easier.
And we are too, to be honest, Nick. Because I'm someone who's always sort of followed your career ever since I've been doing motorsport and media and podcasts and that sort of thing, and since your very early GP3 sort of career. So I've been stalking you for a few
2011.
years. Yeah, basically. Nick, we've got a couple of other journalists on tonight's show. We've got Liam Hodgins and Connor Jackson as well. And if you don't mind, being grilled by them as well, because I'm sure they've got some good questions. Liam?
No worries.
Hi, Nick. Nice to meet you, buddy.
Hi, yes.
Hi. Nice to meet you. Right, so you've been all over the place the last couple of seasons from different categories. I was wondering, are you planning getting back into single-seaters, possibly, with BMW in Formula E?
I mean, if the opportunity came about, I would definitely not turn my nose up at Formula E. You know, I think the racing's great. I've raced with a lot of the guys that have been, successful in it competitively before single-seaters. So, you never know what's going to happen. I haven't had any talks at all with BMW about Formula E, but if the opportunity came about, then for sure I'd jump at it. It would be interesting for me to see how the technology worked, and very interesting to race it and see what it was all about. So I would definitely be up for it, put it that way.
That sounds amazing. How tough is it going from a single-seater racing car like the Racing Points Force India and Formula One back to the GT? What's the adaptability like?
Yeah, I think if you're not used to it, it's very difficult. When I first started doing a lot of the sim work and then having to jump back in a Porsche Carrera Cup car, for example, I found it, a bit tricky for the first couple of times because, the lap times, I think at Barcelona, for example, in 2018 in Super Cup, I did a 1 minute 49. And then this year when I was in the F1 car, I did a 1:18.2. So you're talking, a well over half a minute difference per lap. So the driving styles, you sort of have to have two completely separate brains, separate ways of going about everything. But now, after, like I said, a couple of times of doing it, I managed to be able to adapt pretty quick. And it takes a couple of laps in each car to reacclimatise to either way. But now it's not the end of the world to switch between them.
Did you find yourself in a GT car trying to brake where the Formula One car would brake?
No. Luckily, reference points are a big thing, and I always err on the side of caution, particularly when jumping back into a GT car, because, jumping back into anything after you've been in the current F1 car feels, super slow and very lazy and whatnot. So I always err on the side of caution and build my way up. But it's funny, like on a track like the Nordschleife, where there's a lot of high-speed stuff. Actually, I was particularly good through there because everything felt, super, super slow compared to what I'd been used to during the week leading up to the last race. So it actually helped more than anything, just to slow everything down in a high speed and, crack on with it.
Nice one. I think I'll hand you over to Connor because I know he's got a couple of things he'd like to ask you.
Yep, no problem.
Indeed, Nick. How are you doing this evening?
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Fantastic. Obviously, you've moved with BMW this year, and it's obviously a great new opportunity. I'm sure this year is a time of new beginnings, as it were. But for a lot of your fans, a lot of people who have followed you, you're obviously well known for your time in Porsche Super Cup, and obviously the other Porsche series. And most notably, obviously, you were vice champion last year, actually. So it's great to have seen you risen to the top of that stage. But Porsche Super Cup obviously is on the Formula One bill, so you're very much exposed to these Formula One cars all the time. There must be talkings going on, not just with you and Racing Point, but you and some of the other F1 teams, because they must see your work out on track when they're not busy with their lunch break.
Yeah, well, I know I have people that I know in other F1 teams, so obviously they do watch and congratulate me if I do well, or say, good luck for the next one if I'm not so competitive. Luckily, last year we were pretty competitive all through the championship. We were in the top 5 in every race, which was nice. But to be honest with you, my alliances stay firmly with Racing Point. They were very good to me in giving me the opportunity back in 2014, and I've stayed there ever since. So to be honest with you, it's mostly with Racing Point, but obviously I do have people that I know in the other teams, whether they be mechanics that ran me in Junior Formula, GP3, World Series, or a bit of GP2, or engineers that I've met when I've been testing Formula One. As I'm sure you know, motorsport's a really, really small world, so everyone seems to know everyone, and particularly when things are going well, the attention is on you.
That makes sense. Also, you talk about keeping alliances, but with the move to BMW this year, I assume some alliances have been broken. I'm not sure of the details, but I can't imagine BMW would be that happy with you going back to Porsche Super Cup anytime soon.
No, I don't think so. I mean, obviously, particularly the big German manufacturers are always in competition with each other. BMW have been very good to me to be happy with me doing and continuing the Racing Point work. But yeah, I don't really mind that they wouldn't be happy with that, because it shows that they are keen to keep me on, and I'm keen to stay. So yeah, BMW gave me a massive opportunity to become, a factory driver, which is what I aimed at since, particularly since going across from single seaters to GTs. And yeah, I'd really like to stay there as long as I can, to be honest.
Well, as you say, you've still got a number of years ahead of you. You're 28, I believe, at the minute. So you're definitely in the prime of your life when it comes to racing, as it were. But going from the Porsche Super Cup to obviously the Chinese GT that you've been doing this year, and some of the Blancpain races here and there, I can imagine there must be some sort of big goal we're aiming towards here. I can't imagine you running around in Chinese GT 3-4 years from now.
Well, you never know. I really enjoy the racing out there. The team that I'm racing with at the moment is Team AAI, and they won the Age and Le Mans series at the end of last year, I think, with Jesse Krohn, one of the other factory drivers driving for them, and we're leading the championship currently. So definitely I wouldn't mind if I was racing the championship out there, but my aims are clearly to win the big endurance races now. So 24 hours of Nürburgring, 24 hours of Spa, obviously Daytona, or Le Mans, all races that I want to win. With the current news that BMW aren't running the M8, that might be a bit difficult for the next couple of years, but you never know what happens in the future, and obviously those big races are on my list to win. So that will be the aim.
No World Endurance Championship just yet then?
No, not just yet. That's not in the plans. Obviously, Intercontinental GT is a big part, and the customer racing side of BMW is growing from strength to strength. I think with some really good results already shown this year. So, my heart is with the GT side. Anyway, I just love the racing, love how close you can get, love how competitive it is. And yeah, for now, like I say, I'm pretty focused on that.
Lovely. I'll hand you back to the others for the end. But thank you very much for speaking, Nick.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Nick, just before we let you go, just wanted to just had a couple of questions just to ask you, and it was more about curiosity, to be honest, because I suppose all these all fans think similar things. I like to think anyway. I'm not the only one who thinks all these weird things. But you have been, as you said, with the Racing Point team now, as it is since 2014, and you've been heavily involved, I believe, with their sim and development. How close currently, because I think you've had the benefit of being in their current sim currently and tested their current car. How close are the two in terms of performance? How fast can you go in a sim on one particular track? Or did you actually do a sim run and then go out on track in the test? And did you sort of compare the two, and how similar are they? Yeah,
well, to be honest, the main reason for the test was to get me back in a current Formula One cars. I hadn't driven the latest big aero, big tyre spec. To get me back up to speed, obviously see what my performance was, and then to correlate between real life and the simulator, because the closer we can get the simulator, obviously then developing new parts, developing all sorts, and making the race weekend smoother for the race drivers will just become better and better. So that was the reason for doing it. It's definitely helped, and also the simulator already is not far away. All the buttons, switches, the way stuff like diff mapping and everything we can control from one to the other, and the feeling wise is very, very similar. The way the car reacts is very good. So yeah, super happy with already where we are with the simulator, but now I have driven the real car. I have no doubts we'll be able to make an even bigger step moving forward.
So I guess you have the ability to offer bits of insight for the current drivers, and Perez in the top 10 in the World Championship at the moment. I wouldn't say unbelievable, because the team have always done quite well, given their budget.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're able to sort of offer them an extra insight to say, well, look, guys, I've done this at this time, and I find actually if you just keep your foot in for an extra, half a tenth or whatever it is that you feed back to them, that bits of information. I don't even know how feedback works. To be honest, I've never done it. So
yeah. So I mean, we can speak to them. Obviously, Sergio and Lance both know how to drive. They're not in Formula One for no reason. So I don't really need to tell them what I'm doing driving-wise, unless there's something, a huge difference. It's more in direction of setup. We can use the simulator as an extended FP1 or an FP2. So the stuff that they don't get through within those sessions, we can then continue the work during the day, into the night, overnight, before qualifying. Obviously, once you go into qualifying, the cars are set the same, and I don't think they are then changed from that point into the race. But up until that point, we can be developing and suggesting different ways or directions to go with the car to make them more comfortable. So it literally is an extended test session. It's the best way to explain it. So when they finish and they do their debriefs, we can listen in, see what they are wanting from the car, and test a load of other things in between the sessions that they can then either choose to put on or not, depending on, there's so many variables, but that's sort of how it works. So
I didn't actually realise, obviously I knew that there was a lot of hard work going on at the base at Silverstone, but as you said then, sometimes you're into like the late hours of the night, early morning, just constantly going around doing laps and making suggestions and doing little tweaks just for the setup of a free practice later on.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
You can be until obviously when the stuff is earlier in their development, there's even more work. So when you're getting to know the car, you can definitely be working in, depending on time zones again as well. So you want to be doing it when they are doing it at the track. So if it's Japan, for example, you'll start at 2 a.m. and finish at 2 p.m. Or if they're in Australia, you'll start super early. Texas, obviously, you'll be in late at night because they start a lot later than your days. And yeah, it's hard work, but obviously everyone's working super hard at Silverstone at Racing Point to get the best results, and everyone knuckles down and gets the job done.
Yeah. Well, you've told us already about your focus and what you aim to be doing next. I understand that and I think you teased a little bit of a future announcement, which I might have otherwise missed, I think. But is there anything else that you can give us about what else maybe you might be doing in the future?
Well, I'm doing the 24-hour race, obviously, with BMW in 2 or 3 weeks' time. So that's the biggest news, I would say, coming up. Is that what you meant, or is there other things that have been?
Well, I don't know. I mean, talking to you over the past few years, Nick, there always seems to be something else that you're sort of like working on in the background, and then we come away from an interview, and then like it's all over Autosport. Nick Yelloly to race in Formula One or something. I'm like, oh, why didn't you mention that?
No. So for now, it's concentrating on the 24-hour race.
Okay.
Actually. In 2 or 3 weeks, and then I'll finish that race. And then on the Monday or the Tuesday, I fly straight to Shanghai for the next China GT round. So it starts getting busy again. And yeah, to be honest, that's the biggest point of what's going on. And then working my way up to the top of the BMW ranks is also obviously an aim of mine. Coming in the first year of GTs, it's a great challenge, and let's see where it takes us. Maybe I can find myself in a DTM seat in the near future. That would be cool with the new cars. But like I said, super happy in GTs and with the opportunity they gave me. So for now, just focusing on that.
Okay, and just finally, I think before just finally again, how much influence would you say that you have over the whoever it is makes the decisions at BMW Motorsport? If you really wanted to, really wanted to do like Formula E, for example, but maybe the bosses said they want you to maybe do another season of Chinese GT or whatever, could you maybe just say, well, actually, maybe I think I might be better suited given my, years of experience in, Formula One and stuff?
I mean, I can suggest that, I'm sure, but I'm not at the end of the day, I'm not the guy that makes decisions. They're my employees, my employer, sorry. So they make the decisions of where I go, and I go and race and do everything to the best of my ability, wherever that may be. The China GT and out in Asia is actually something that I was really quite keen on doing once it was offered, just because I'd never raced in Malaysia, which was the first round. Shanghai's next. I'd never been there and really experienced the culture.
Some good names in that championship at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Adam Christodoulou.
Yeah.
Super driver. Obviously, he's won the 24 Hours of Nürburgring. He's a factory driver. He's top notch, and I mean, he's very, very, very good driver. Then there's Jasman Jafar as well, who is also very, very good. Again, I raced him in World Series Renault. That was 2012 now. I raced him, so a while ago. But some really quite good drivers, and also working with the AMs is a new dynamic as well, of the other Pro-Am format. And that's a good new dynamic for me to work with the AM drivers and try and bring them on. And the competition seems to be, good. I mean, having to try and hustle around some of the tracks, beating Adam and Jasmine is definitely keeps me on my toes, and it's good that we're all out there fighting for the top positions all the time. Keeps it interesting. Definitely
a name that's almost like a blast from the past, really. Old Jasman Jafar, and as you mentioned, he was big back in his day, and probably still is, actually. Not to be too disrespectful about his talents, but excellent. Nick, we will let you go and prepare for your big race coming up in a couple of weeks' time, and we will definitely keep up to date with whatever else it is that you pop up doing in the near future, no doubt. So thank you. Brilliant. For coming on Motorsport Radio again, and here again on this here Monday show of ours. No problem. Good to speak to you all, and I'll catch you sometime soon.